Hi everyone, welcome back to World of FinTech, your weekly FinTech feel-good show. I'm Medhy, your host, and What the FinTech is a news and information platform covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Asia. So join us every week for engaging conversation with some Asian FinTech figures to discuss about entrepreneurships, emerging technology, customer engagement, and partnerships. Before starting this interview, feel free to share your question in the comment sections, like and share. And well, today I don't have only one founder, but I have two co-founders about a finance company, a fintech finance company. The term is revenue-based financing. Is it correct?
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
Revenue-based financing, RBF.
Perfect. Welcome, Percy. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you today. I'm very excited to speak about what you are doing because I think it's one of the most interesting business models that we got here in Hong Kong and in Asia. You're pretty the unique one to do this here. But before we can speak about the company and introducing the company, could you introduce yourself a bit, please?
Okay, sure. No, first of all, thank you for having us today. My name is Percy, and this is Brian, right? He'll introduce himself later. But I met Brian in college in Atlanta, Georgia. So we were both engineers. I'm a little older than him. When I was senior, he was a freshman. So there aren't a lot of Asian kids on campus. So when I saw him, I'm like, okay, I got to know this guy. And so many years fast forward, we came back to Hong Kong. We tried to do our own businesses, and through a lot of failures, we got together, and so we got together to start Choco Up.
Yeah, so like Percy was saying, when I saw this tall, skinny dude 15 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, I think we clicked right away. He was a senior and I was a freshman, and he studied aerospace engineering. I studied industrial engineering, and we took on different paths. After graduation, and somehow life had a interesting way to connect us. And I've been a finance professional ever since graduation. And however, because I study engineering, I've always had an interest in product and technology, and so I've always wanted to work in fintech, one way or the other. And when I sort of reconnect with Percy. In Hong Kong in person again, we realized revenue-based financing is a super awesome solution that can really solve a lot of pain points for different businesses. And yeah, so and the rest is history.
Okay, very interesting. Small world, Hong Kong and your university, really cool. Just before we go in details into about Choco, I'd like to know a bit more about the speakers. Do you have any fun facts you want to share with us? Anything who make your backgrounds a bit special compared to others?
I'll start first.
Yeah.
My parents, they were China national volleyball team players in the
Oh, cool.
70s. I love sports, but they don't get paid a lot back in the days. So they don't encourage me to take on a sports career. I love sports, any kind of sports, competitive, right? My first job was in Japan. So as an engineer, so I like to build stuff. And so Brian and myself are very, very different. And that's why I think we can click and there's not a lot of conflict. Yeah.
Fun facts. So I used to be able to solve Rubik's cube. I still can the 3 by 3. I could do 4 by 4 and 5 by 5. So that was my high school hobby. So I wasn't chasing girls. I was working on my Rubik's cube.
So, what was your goal here? It was to be the fastest possible to solve the issue.
So for the 3 by 3, yes, I think I was able to do it under 30 seconds
Oh,
on average back in the day. For the 4 by 4 and 5 by 5, I wasn't like a speed solver. I was just able to solve it. Any other fun facts? I mean, I was an engineer turned investment professional, which was quite rare, for someone who came from my school. So we both went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So we are known for our engineering. Most of our graduates go to Fortune 500 companies or Silicon Valley. Usually, I guess at least back in the days, they don't really go to Wall Street. And I was blessed to be one of the few, and it changed my life.
Perfect. Can we speak about the origin story of Choco? How did you guys start, and what is Choco doing?
Okay. So I'll start and Brian can chip in. So we worked kind of few projects together, F&B, some cloud kitchen concept, and some brick and mortar, restaurant, bars, and stuff like that, and also D2C brand, e-commerce. But we realized a lot of people like ourselves. This is like kind of a high risk business with not a lot of asset backed. So it was very difficult for us to fundraise. And when we want to scale, we don't have enough capital. And if we run into a wall and go through some issues, we need to raise fund. And that was very, very difficult for us. But it doesn't mean the business isn't doing well. So we looked around. Banks normally take a long time to approve a loan. And most of the time, it's based on your personal credit score. And it's not enough to save the business, right? And for VCs and other PE or family offices, our business is not high growth enough for them to take a look. But we understand SMEs, MSMEs, and early stage startups. They need a lot of help because when you get into business, you meet a lot of other entrepreneurs, a lot of other founders, a lot of second generations that want to turn the business around or grow their business, whether locally or internationally, right? So I think the RBF model really, really can solve this problem, this funding gap.
So when did you start the company exactly?
So we started the company in 2018, and in, I would say, the first year and a half, we're very focused on market research, market exploration, product development, and we officially launched our operation in 2020. Right around when COVID happened. But I think for us, because our target audience are new economy businesses, and they have really thrived after COVID, and because they're successful, I mean, we have already also been quite successful since then.
Do you have any background in particular in your industry? I mean, it's like in terms of financing companies before you start your own company here.
Yeah, so I'll start. So I do. I studied industrial engineering, like I was saying, and after graduation, I started my career at Deutsche Bank in leverage finance, and that was all about lending. And I was lending to corporates, originating leverage loans, high yield bonds for corporates and for private equity firms to do LBOs. And so right out of college, I was a young kid, didn't know anything, and was very, very good experience. Builds a huge and very important foundation in terms of credit, and I think that really pathed the way to start Choco Up. I guess around 8, 9 years later.
Okay, for me, no. Not from a finance background, but I know for a fact I love to build stuff, and I failed multiple times. I've seen a lot of people around me fail as well. So we were the end users, Brian, myself as well. If we got help back in the days, if there was a RBF company in say Hong Kong or Singapore, I think some of our ventures might not have failed. And so from an end user standpoint, we know for a fact that there's a huge market for this.
I want to ask you because I saw a lot of exposure about your company last year, a lot of partnership, a lot of investment from your company, and also this year in different articles. So, what is the secret magic of Choco App? What do you do exactly? How you collaborate with companies? Why company reach out to you? So, can you explain to everyone in simple words?
I'll start. I'll explain it simply, right? I think we went out with the approach of helping people, helping companies, and helping the founders, helping the business owners, helping the staff within the company. We try to solve their pain point instead of like a traditional lender say, "Hey, this is $100," with the interest X and X, and take it or leave it, right? But for us, we dive deep with them. We are like their growth partners, so we don't just fund them. Okay, so for technical, okay, being a little more technical, we are not considered a debt. We're not. I mean, we're not considered a loan. So because of the repayment structure, it's structured as a sales and purchasing agreement. So it's more like us buying your future receivables,
Mhm.
and the repayment is really flexible. So we're not exactly a loan. But again, back to your question, we came out wanting to help people like ourselves, and that's how we started.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think for someone who starts a small business these days, when it comes to getting financing, getting funding, I think the first thing that they would think is it's impossible. Number one, and second is even if it is a very long and burdensome process. And I think these are the two things that we are trying to solve. Is that one, it is possible for small businesses to get funding, and second is we want to ensure that when you try to get funding from us, the entire journey, the entire customer experience can be as seamless and as pleasurable as it can be. And I think this is such a pain point, especially in the Asian landscape. And we have worked very hard in the past couple years to try to make this as streamlined as possible. And I think when we roll the product out to market, it's just so different from what businesses are used to that we've been blessed to get a lot of traction and gotten a lot of great feedback.
So at this moment, you are the only one doing RBF, so revenue-based financing, here in Hong Kong. Is it correct, or I'm missing some information here?
Okay, so I think as a pure RBF company, we're the only one in Hong Kong. There are a few in Singapore and Southeast Asia as well. However, as a pure, I mean, there's some company that does other type of financing plus RBF, but we are the only one that's purely 100%. Every single client customer that we deal with, we use the RBF model with them.
And how do you see your platform, your company is different from other startups or also alternative financing solutions? What is the advantage of your company?
Yeah, I'll start. I think for us, um, there are a lot of more traditional financing house, and they sort of slap, some sort of tech on top of it, but they're still very much, run on the same model, be it supply chain finance or personal loan, whatnot. And I think for us, what we're really trying to do is that first of all, I think the revenue-based financing model means that the repayment from the business can be flexible. And I think this is something that is unheard of previously. And so, depending on your business cycle, your repayment can be different. So, if you say you run an e-commerce business, typically Q4 is a very important quarter for you because that's when Double 11 happens, Double 12, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, etc. And you might be experiencing 5x, 6x revenue versus the other quarters. And when you have a great quarter, when you have a great month, you repay more.
Mhm.
And when you have a low season, say Chinese New Year, you repay a lot less. And I think that really alleviates the cash flow pressure of the businesses. Um, yeah, so I think for us, that's very important. And second is the amount of technology that we utilize on in our platform. Um, in our opinion, it's a lot more than other fintech startups that you come across, especially in the lending space, because I think a lot of data is readily available. Now, whether or not you can acquire them in a seamless manner is key. And then, how does the entire onboarding process um, uh, you make it so that from the customer's perspective, it is so seamless and so user friendly that they want to come back for more. And I think we were able to achieve that. We actually have a 85% customer recurrence, and that's something that we're very proud of.
Thank you, Brian. I like to add 2 points. First of all, starting with mindset. I think for Choco Up, everyone in Choco Up, we preach that other fintech companies or other lenders or platforms, we don't see them as competitors. because the pie is so big. The total addressable market for lending is huge. There's no point fighting with each other. In
Mhm.
fact, if we work with them, some of the clients that customer that we service, we might not be able to service, so we refer them back through proper channels and partnerships, right? So first of all, from the mindset standpoint, I think we think that there's no conflict because you use different products, even personal. If you get a apartment, you get a mortgage. If you buy a car, you get car loans. If you have credit card, you have personal credit, right? So from a business standpoint, you can have your PE, you can have your VC money, you can have your bank credit, and you can use RBF. And one of our goals is to make RBF an indispensable part of a funding cycle of any business. Okay, and secondly, there are a lot of money out there. Businesses can have access to different type of money. It's just whether how cheap or how expensive it is, right? How it's being structured. But for us, on top of the money, we do a lot of pro bono value added services upstream and downstream for that business, whether they want to scale locally or internationally, or if they need some financial advisory work. Our whole team, we have a dedicated team to help them solve their problem because our ideology is, hey, if we can assist them in doing their business easier and faster, their repayment will be much faster and better. So that kind of securitize and lower the risk of our funding to them.
Oh, you answered already my next question. What drives your organization? But this is a part of the answer. Do you want to supplement a bit on this? Or
Yeah, I would just add that our mission is we want to help millions of businesses to grow 10x. So I think with today's technology, with how you can scale with product and digital marketing to create exposure and awareness, it's actually very achievable. And I think for a lot of businesses, they just need that little bit of help, whether it's funding, whether it's guidance, and we're here to fill that gap. And we've been helping a lot of businesses grow quite a bit in the past couple of years. And our next goal is we want to build a very comprehensive platform where businesses, when they come to us, they know that, oh, Choco Up, it can be a growth partner in many different forms. It could be funding, which has been our bread and butter, but we have other business growth solutions, like Percy was alluding to, whether it's via their partners, whether it's via some products, say payment solutions. These are all things that can help businesses grow revenue, save more money, or reduce risk. And in my opinion, these three things is the most important, are always the most important three things when you run a business. Everything else is fluffy.
um, I have a question because I saw many articles speaking about your different partnerships and how you solve the issue of funding of some of the companies. And you mentioned different industries, but do you have kind of a profile of companies coming to you? Should be there a company after pre-series A, after series A? Do you work with especially one industry in particular, or do you work with many industries?
Okay, I'll go first. I think from the funding amount or the stage, whether it's early stage or late stage, we're pretty agnostic because every stage of a business you'll face different type of problem, and funding is actually one of the key criteria to help them solve the problem. So we do anything. So one of the our criteria is post revenue. So you have to be generating certain revenue, so and hence the term revenue based financing, and that's pretty much it's a must for us.
Okay.
But whether it's a seed round company or a pre-IPO company, we're open to it. And Brian will talk a bit about sectors.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say in general, we are pretty sector agnostic also, but I would say we very much focus on new economy businesses, like I was referring to. So, digital businesses, digital merchants, is our bread and butter
Mhm.
because when you're digital native, it means you have data readily available, whether it's on the e-com sales platforms that you're using, whether it's a payment gateway that you're using, whether it's the accounting software that you're using. And so instead of paperwork, Excel, spreadsheets, via API connections, we can get those data very, very quickly and analyze them very, very quickly. That's how we can, provide our customers the best experience, instead of them having to wait for us for 3 4 weeks before we can give them a decision. We can do it in 2 hours, and I think that's something that it's quite refreshing for a lot of businesses.
So you can do it in 2 hours instead of couple of weeks or months, right?
For the initial preliminary stage, yes.
So how long it takes for like the full cycle from initiating a contact with you to receive the financing?
Yeah, so typically I would say within 2 weeks. A lot of times it's actually uh, the client side needing more time to get documents ready. But if everything is readily available, I mean, we have funded client within 24 hours.
Without this kind of new financing systems that you are developing or we can find on the market, how long it takes usually for a company to find some fundings like this?
I'll start. So I think, say compared to banks, for example, typically they might have to walk down to a branch and they may not find someone right away. They would connect them to an SME banker. And before you get to talk to that person, it might be 2 weeks already, and then they need to understand your business. They ask for a lot of documents that you may or may not have, and they're more applied to traditional big corporates. Say, for example, um, audited financial statements. These are things that I would say small businesses should have also, but it might not be their main focus when they are a business owner that is very, very busy day to day, right? And so I think, just to have an initial conversation and getting some sort of initial traction, it might be a month already. And then a lot of back and forth. From then on, it might be another 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And so when it comes to getting funding, I think it's very typical that you hear, oh, it's a 3 month process, 6 month process, which I think for a lot of businesses that we serve, because they are very fast moving, right? And when they identify certain strategies and promotions and campaigns, they want to do it right away, right? So, if it's June right now, a lot of times they have to start preparing for inventory purchase and marketing spend for the Double 11 that's coming in 5 months. But if you're not getting money in 4 months, then you might essentially wasted a year of opportunity that happened in Q4.
Where do you see your company in the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay. So, all right. Before I answer that, right? So RBF is not something new. It's been in the market for quite a while, in the West especially. So in North America, there's a unicorn startup called ClearCo. They're over $2 billion valuation, and in Europe, there's a Wayflyer. There's also a $1 billion valuation company. So they're doing exactly the same thing. I mean, we kind of model them as they're the pioneers of this field, and we learn a lot from them. However, they're not in Asia yet,
Mhm.
so there has to be some reason. Uh, so when we do our own research and we realize that because the Asian market, especially Southeast Asia, is very, very segmented. There are different, business culture, etiquette, consumer behavior. So everything is different in every single country. ASEAN alone has 10 different countries with different consumer behavior and how business run their business, right? So we believe we do have an advantage because we have boots on the ground here.
Mhm.
We're early movers. And for example, right, the big sales channels in the West is Amazon, eBay, Shopify. But in Asia, every country has probably 10 or 15 of these. And for payment in the West, it's Stripe and PayPal. But every country has their own payment system over here in Asia. So we're working very closely, like you mentioned before, the partnerships. So we work closely with, say, Airwallex, Stripe as well, and we even work with Shopify. In fact, Shopify, Stripe, they have their own RBF capital as well. However, because this is not their domain, so they partner with us so that we can onboard more clients for them to increase their top line, increase their GMV. So this is another example of big tech companies that do not see other similar type of business as competitor. In fact, working together will create a win-win-win situation for them, for us, and for the clients that use our service. So I think in 5 years' time, we really want to be the biggest RBF company in Asia.
Yeah, I think I think focusing more on the funding gap problem. So there was a report from McKinsey that came out last week, and it says the MSME funding gap currently globally is in a $5.2 trillion range. And so I think the funding gap problem has existed for 50 years, 60 years, and it has widened. And I think for whatever reasons, I think as the world becoming more and more connected, become more and more flat. Everybody has cell phones now, and that's a super phenomenal thing. I mean, you have people who live in not so good conditions. They have no TVs, they have no laptops, they have no desktops at home, but they have a phone, right? And I think um, this would continue to be technology would continue to be such an important part of human lives that I think that a lot of businesses are going to be created virtually also, right? And I think they need funding, but can traditional institutions fund them quite yet? May or may not be. And I think just this gap that we're experiencing, if we can play a small part of filling that gap, could be. I mean, even 1%, it's already tens of billions of dollars. I think we're already creating a big impact, and I think when we fund businesses, what we also realize is that we are really delivering social impact. And that's something that we're very proud of. Because when you fund a business, when they're able to grow their revenue, what it means is they need to hire more people. So we're creating more jobs. And when they do better, they want to retain those people. And though they would pay people a higher salary. So it increases the standards of living of the people as well. And when one business does well, what it means is that it's benefiting the upstream and the downstream of the businesses. So they do better as well. And so the kind of social impact I think that we're creating as a byproduct of what we do is something that we are super proud of as well. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we want to be known as a business that is successful, profitable, of course, but it's someone that recognizes that, oh, the Choco Up are the great guys. They really try to help us.
Yep. And to add on top of that, um, our mission is to help a million business to grow 10x.
Mhm.
So, I mean, a million sounds like a big number. For a B2C business, it's very small, but for a B2B, it sounds big. But give a frame of reference, right? Go to Tokopedia and Gojek alone have 14 million merchants on it. Lazada, Shopee, and then there's Shopify and all the other platforms, right? So I think even if we hit 1%, we'll be we'll hit that number as well. So, and also banks, right? RBF and what Chuckle Up is doing is not mutually exclusive from all the other funding options. In fact, we want to work with banks and other options as well, because as a business, you would need different financing options where we don't want to tell them, hey, we're the only solutions that you have. And maybe when you graduate, or maybe when you have other needs, we can use our network to refer you to get proper funding with other options as well.
You looks really into it. You looks very passionate right now. Couple of questions about your company as well. Are you only based in Hong Kong and Singapore? Do you have teams overseas? And in which market are you operating right now?
Okay, I'll start. We started. We were born here, the company, but we quickly realized because I grew up in Singapore, so I the whole Southeast Asia it's like the wild wild west for startups, and we believe it's gonna be there for another 10, 20 years, where it's gonna be booming. And it's got a huge population as well. So we quickly went down to Singapore, set up an office, set up a team. We have an amazing head of Singapore, this lady called Hui Xin. We all love her. And then and then one thing leads to another. We're funded 15 countries worldwide right now, but the main focus is still in Southeast Asia.
Perfect. How big is your team right now?
We're around 30 people.
And do you plan to expand your team by the end of this year or by next year?
Yeah, so we're actually onboarding people every week.
Okay.
We are aggressively hiring across all of our functional teams, such as investments team, partnerships, marketing, credit, um, tech, product. Basically, every functional team we are hiring in Hong Kong and Singapore. So we've been blessed with a lot of traction, and we realized that this is something that we can really scale, if we have the right people. And so it's not easy to find good people.
So how do you find those people?
Yeah, I think any channel that you can think of, we have explored. We obviously we do job postings on different websites. We have used a lot of our personal network, and we poach people even from other time zones just because they're so good. And yeah, so I mean, we have used a lot of different methods to find people.
And to add on to that, that is one of our biggest challenge as well, because we are still an early stage startup. And the tech scene is so, you know, it's so big and growing, and a lot of money, a lot of fame. You saw flying left and right. Everybody's gonna getting paid. So for us to be competitive, it takes a lot of work, and also we are very blessed to have different people helping us, potential VCs, people in the industry. We take time to get to know them, to learn from them, and I think they're a lot of them are very very kind to refer us talents as well.
I want to ask also because you speak about right now the challenge of recruiting people. Did you face many challenges when you start the company? I mean, in terms of Choco Up creating as a company and facing some difficulties there.
A, a lot, because people didn't understand what RBF was before. Market education is always expensive, grueling, and time consuming. But I think our founding team, Brian, myself, and the starting few guys, plus in the early stages, first 2 years, our team really didn't give up. We got a lot of rejections, more than acceptance. A lot of sweet, but it was it's all worth it. Yeah.
Um, did you learn anything surprising you in your industry?
Hmm.
I think every day is a surprise.
I think I think what I realize is that you don't have to be the smartest person. Um, you have to work very hard. But I think more importantly is when you go alone, you can go fast, but you can't go far.
I love this sentence.
And um, and I mean, you only have 24 hours a day, and you are usually experienced in one niche or one vertical, right? It could be finance, it could be coding, it could be investments, credit, whatever that is, and you can't replace those experience just by taking a YouTube course, in my opinion, right? Someone that's been in the mud doing that for 10 years, that's 10 years of solid experience. And so I think it's a lot more about finding the right people that not only have the skill sets, but they actually understand the company mission and vision, and they believe in it, and culturally that they fit, I think managing that team and able, kind of like Jack Ma in a way, that's what he's very, very good at. When you're able to find the right people to work in the right function, it just goes. And when you don't, and when you try to do it on your own, and I think that's when like a lot of mistakes happen.
We spoke a lot about financing and banks. I want to ask you, how do you collaborate with banks? What is the ideal scheme for you to work with the bank? How you start the partnerships and how do you develop this partnership with them?
Yeah, so I think banks play a very important role in the society, right? So obviously they can take your deposit, that your money is safe, and for certain businesses you can borrow money easily from a bank. And I think for banks, because they serve so many clients, they actually have a lot of data points, of individuals or businesses, um, transactions record, and even their personal information. Obviously, they're all confidential, but I think these information are very, very insightful. When it comes to you know potentially predicting the success of certain businesses or individuals, kind of like credit report in a way. And so I think that banks, for a lot of reasons, they may or may not be able to um, iterate some of the initiatives that they have been thinking of enough fast enough. And so I think what we come into play is we're not a fintech. We don't have a banking license. We're very agile, and we make decisions very fast, right? So we try things fast, we fail fast, but that also means that through trial and error, we're able to come up with different insights much quicker, because we don't have. I guess we don't have bureaucracies. We don't have politics. We don't have layers and layers of people. And I felt like sometimes, when we speak to banks, we realize that we have built a lot of different algorithms and analytics that may or may not be directly applicable to the bank right away. Um, so I think that's one. And I think the second thing is that, like Percy was alluding to, I think everyone plays a different role, in the society. So we are very, very good with revenue based financing. And uh, I could say we are not good at anything else because we haven't been building anything else, right? And Stripe is very good at payment gateway, and good for them. They will continue to hire 1,000 engineers to continue to improve on their payment gateway. Shopify is very good with their e-com sales platform, and Shopify does have Shopify Capital, but we know for a fact that it's not really their focus, right? And they continue to hire a lot of people to improve their core product. And so I think for banks, they're very good at certain things, and we are very good with revenue-based financing. And I felt like um, when we work together, say banks can do fund management, right? They can provide banking services, and when we come in as a partner, and when we can bring in a lot of how partnerships can work in a uh, product way, it's something that I think maybe it's beneficial to some banks. So, for example, we work with global wallet companies. We work with global payment gateways. We know how those tech integrations work, and we know what kind of commercial agreements between the both sides that can generate strong value. Um, and these are things that we spend so many late nights and to come up with, and so much negotiation to come up with. And I felt like this is something that we can tell banks also, that this is how a lot of fintechs work, and this is how we believe both sides can be very comfortable and generate value. So Yeah, so those are the two things I think are quite important.
Do you have anything to supplement?
Just one more thing. I'm a little more direct. I think banks view risk very differently from how we view risk. And so we can undertake a lot more risks that the bank think it's very risky, but to us, we feel very, very comfortable because the target audience is totally different, right? So if you work with banks, together, I think we will serve a much larger audience and for the underserved as well. So I think that is a very direct collaboration that we can do together. Yeah.
Perfect. I think you answer most of the question I want to ask you on the challenges you have with bank and how we can rethink the product. If you mentioned about like scaling your teams and recruiting, if someone's listening or watching this video want to reach out to you, how they can reach out to you and how they can apply to your company?
Anyway, WhatsApp, phone call, LinkedIn, social media, IG, anything, or through YouTube.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
um, how do you stay up to date compared to the other markets? Like you mentioned about other IBF companies in Europe or US. How do you know the latest products that are developing or what is happening in different markets that you are targeting?
Yeah, I'll start. I think, to be honest, I think at the end of the day, it's really talking to people that are in this industry, some one way or the other. It could be the investors of different fintechs, especially the ones that are interested in RBF. It could be the partners that work with RBF firms like us. And a lot of what you read online, um, they are good, but they don't dive deep enough into what's really happening. And so I would say for me personally, I'm always zooming with someone because I think it's important to get those insights and and then able to relay those information to the team so that we can stay as competitive as we can.
Um, what is the biggest piece of advice you can give to anyone listening here? Or the biggest takeaway you want people to remember from this show?
Okay, so one of my mentor actually told me don't give advice because everyone is in different situation.
Mhm.
But what we can do is share experience.
Okay.
So from my own personal experiences, uh, give it all. I mean, give it all you have, right? But sometimes also be a little more realistic. And if something doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. Some people are suitable for startups. Some people are not. Some people are suitable for a really, really stable corporate job. And they could be successful. Don't let people think you have to do your own business to be successful. No, successful can be in very, very different way. My mom is a teacher, and without her, I won't be here today. Every all the values that she taught me, how to be a kind person. I think she's a very, very successful person. And yeah, it's not just about who raised $100 million and who exited. So this is my sharing.
I would say that I think people who work in startups tend to be someone who's very driven, very ambitious, workaholics, of course. And I think sometimes we do sacrifice certain things to to make our startup successful, right? Whether it's your own health, it could be physical or mental. It could be family time, whether it's your wife, your kids, your husband, your parents, your brothers and sisters. And I think what I realize is that businesses are dynamic, and sometimes businesses are successful for different reasons, and luck play a very, very important role. Um, and but I think if you view startup as something that you're passionate about, it's not a get rich quick thing that you're trying to do. And I think people who have been involved in startups understand that it's not a get rich quick scheme. After having been for quite some time, they know that's not the scheme for sure. Then you realize that having a balanced lifestyle working on yourself, giving yourself enough time to rest and digest information, spending time with your loved ones can actually really help your business because you're much more ready and you're in a much better state to do what you want to do, especially if this startup is something that you want to run for a long time. So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, it's like being stable, balanced. But sometimes when you do sport or you go for a hike, you can just step back a bit and just have a different perspective and just come back, come down, and be more structured on how you want to go for the next steps.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Anything exciting happening to you in the couple of next months or by the end of the year? Any cool developments you would like to share with everyone? I'm sure you have a lot.
Quite a lot. But for my end, it's I'm really excited to hit the Philippine market. You know,
Cool.
so we're actively looking to hire and also sending some of our existing team members to go over because having people on the ground, I think, makes a difference. At the end of the day, business are it's revolving around people, and if you have no people around, if it's just a bot, it's kind of a bummer at times.
Yeah, I think for me, because we're hiring so many people
Mhm.
now, and we have this roadmap of things that we want to build, and all the different go-to-market strategies that are quite ready and just need the right people to execute. And and so I'm very excited to have people on board who buy into our vision and ready to really make Choco Up a successful platform. And and I think something that we really emphasize at Choco Up is we want to be a very transparent and flat organization. And so, I mean, we tell everyone on the team that they can PM, Percy and I at any given time, because any concern, any questions, any feedback is to make Choco better.
Mhm.
Um, and we would much rather to take, unfavorable or harsh feedback at as early as possible so that we are not on the wrong track. Um, and so yeah, I'm super excited, for all the different people that we are onboarding.
Feedback culture is really important for everyone. I think one of my last questions would be where people can learn about you. Do they have to go to LinkedIn? Do you have like any blogs? Do you have any YouTube channel?
We don't. We don't have. I think we're just engaged with the day to day, internally,
So LinkedIn is
externally.
the best platform to reach out to you.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So could you share your names again to everyone for them to follow you on the LinkedIn?
Yeah, so sorry, I just want to add one thing. So I mean, we have done tons of media interviews. We do have our own blog for Choco Up. So we write about like 10 articles a month. So quite a lot, actually. And that's for anyone who wants to learn about Choco Up and what we do and some insights of how to run businesses better. But if you want to reach out to us directly, I would say you can go on our website. I mean, we have a chat bot. I mean, you can leave your message and we reach out. And yeah, LinkedIn, personal LinkedIn, feel free to add us. And yeah, so we are constantly posting stuff on LinkedIn, whether it is some serious information or office hours or birthday parties or basketball games and sports events that we have. Yeah, it's everything's on LinkedIn. So
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, both of you.
No, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have you here and learn a lot about revenue-based financing. Thank you, everyone, to listen to this show. You can follow us on the Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and all the platforms. You can like, comment, also share with your friends. Feel free to reach out as well. And I'll see you next week for another episode. Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.